I think a good rule of thumb for people to follow is the 5-second test. Like if someone lands on your website and they're there for 5 seconds, have they already figured out what you do, who you do it for, and what the next steps are if you're interested in engaging with them as a business? And if the answer to that is no, then you probably really need to look at what the purpose of your website is and what you want it to do.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the ProfileTree podcast. I'm Marcus, and today I'm joined by Laura and Padraig. So, today's topic of choice is why most websites don't convert. So, we're going to take you through a couple different reasons that we think that this comes up. In particular, we'll be looking at things like the content side of things, performance, messaging, and everything in between. So, with that, I would like to kick us off by talking about the performance side of things, particularly page speed. One of the common metrics that we'll look at this will be from Google Search Console and their core web vitals. That'll be a major assessment from that side of things. But it also feeds in just to the user experience side of things in terms of how people, might bounce off of sites. So I suppose to give a little bit of an example there, looking at this article from the Martel Group, and you'll see lots of variants of these kind of stats around, but the average website conversion rate that they see is around 2 to 3% across all industries. And this is from some 2026 statistics as well. You'll see a few variants of this depending on the bodies, but this is about expected. It's very hard to keep people's attention these days. In the website side of things in particular, mobile is going to be king as far as where visitors are coming from, and about 53% of mobile visitors will just leave a page if it takes more than 3 seconds for them to get the page loaded. So people are quite impatient these days, and some of the key ones in this can be unoptimized images. People will upload just full kind of resolution images, which may look pretty, and they're great if you're supplying this for kind of stationary graphics and things. But on the website side of things, we need to get them compressed. For WordPress websites, things like plugin bloat can really stress out some servers, and it mightn't even be the architecture of the website itself, but more to do with all of the bloat and kind of the added work that the server and the application has to make. And there can be some easy wins for this by using things like WP Rocket to help compress down the site a little bit. Likewise with some image compression with things like Smush and Short Pixel. And then you can start tying in things like Cloudflare to get some CDNs going to help offload some of that hard work. Is there anything else that you guys think of around the website performance?
I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about a sort of mobile first approach, Marcus. The stats that I read earlier, I think it's around 66% of website traffic is from mobile users, which I think people tend to forget, especially when they're designing a full website from sort of start to finish. It might look amazing on your desktop or laptop, but is it stacking well on a mobile? Because I'm the exact same as most people. If it's a couple of seconds and it hasn't loaded, I'm gone. It's like, when you go to read a news article on something like Belfast Live, and he's like, I'm not hanging around for these ads. So it is really, really important to design with that in mind, and not, I don't know what about in your experience, but it feels like it's often an afterthought as considering the mobile design kind of just after the actual initial design has been completed.
I mean, for sure, we've seen people are starting to catch on over as time has gone by. If we think back to earlier kind of for web vital metrics as well from Google, they used to make an assessment for mobile responsiveness. They've stopped making that assessment now whenever their bots are crawling your site, because they have been satisfied to a degree that is being met at least to a kind of baseline standard. But satisfying just Google isn't enough yet. And on the mobile kind of performance and responsive side of things, it's going to be an everlasting metric. The core web vitals are there to help give you some real-time stats, particularly from users visiting the site via Google. And hopefully then, whether you're a developer or a manager of a website in a content sense, you can hopefully make some informed decisions based off the metrics that you get there. especially getting some real world statistics is very, very valuable. There's lots of different tools out there to help, obviously with just looking in isolation, but sometimes the stats give you a nice wider picture in terms of what you should kind of target or look at.
Yeah. I know you talked a little bit about optimizing and there being issues around plugins or uncompressed images and stuff like that. Is there like an optimal website size, do you think, for performance? Or is it very much, how long's a piece of string kind of situation?
I suppose it's a how low can you go? The smaller the better, really, without compromising on, because obviously you still want good design and kind of quality of the site too. You could fill it with pixelated images, I suppose, and then yeah, your performance is great, but it's not going to look too pretty. So it's always a bit of a balancing act to try and get there. I suppose some of the common bits and pieces to look out for is just trying to get images, like for example, get them at least under 750 kilobytes to start things off. You don't want high res, 5 megabyte images. People trying to load that in, if they have a data connection on mobile, they're going to be waiting for it to chunk down. It'll be like the dial-up days, so you want to avoid that. You can use WEBP as your kind of image format. That's really good at compression. There used to be issues in the past with the Safari browser being compatible with this, but as time has gone on, this is very much faded away. So that's kind of the go-to standard for what file type you should be using for images. And yeah, it's, I suppose, trying to factor that into design can be difficult because obviously, websites might want to be quite flashy, have lots of images. Maybe they have a rolling background video at the top of their website too. And these are obviously good from a design standpoint and getting across your branding, but they're it's going to make the page load time. It's not going to be as strong if you do use these things. It doesn't make it wrong to use them, but you're going to have to be aware of things like that and try to balance out all of these kind of heavy load elements to make sure that you aren't overusing that whenever you are developing or designing even a page as well. So
Yeah.
a delicate balancing act to try and make everybody happy, both you from a branding perspective and the user just from a experience perspective of interacting with the site.
Is there any tools that you'd recommend for it? I know there's like the WCAG, like accessibility checkers, but I suppose aside from that, would it be more like, somebody with a UI UX background to check it, or is there anything I suppose people could use? Or is that at least a good starting point?
I would say, yeah, those are good tools as starting points. To kind of get a good baseline, I would say, to start off with websites. You want them to at least have a good baseline. There's going to be particulars, to every business in terms of how they want to place their calls to actions and stuff, and we can get into that shortly. But yeah, you want to make sure you're at least hitting kind of minimum accessibility requirements. You're doing what you can as far as compression goes, be it image or website files, to try and get them delivered well. Once you've got that down, you can then start looking more at the design and the kind of user experience side of things. So, okay, all well and good. You have a quick website now. So you've got people on the site. They're not going to skip away, but now you've got to keep them there. So now you've got them locked in, secure. And, tool wise, you can use things like PageSpeed Insights. I think that's one of the most valuable ones, especially for, it doesn't just do web, load times. It'll also have a look at accessibility and some SEO technical markers too, to help kind of get you there. From that, you can go more in depth than maybe, GT Metrics is quite nice. It's a bit more in depth on the performance specific side of things. And yeah, SEO ability is quite good. That's more technical side. And yeah, accessibility tools then are, PageSpeed Insights will cover some of that too, but you can look up some of the WCIG stuff as well to get a better idea on what they're looking for as far as font size, color contrast, and everything else in between. So once you've got that baseline of the site, it's in a stable place, it'll load quick. Now you can kind of get into, okay, right, well, now we've got them here, they haven't ran away, and the next part is the retention, I suppose.
Yeah. One of the things I was going to talk about is, I suppose it's like everything that you have to have a plan or a strategy. a lot of people build a website without even having a sales funnel in mind, as in, okay, well, someone's landed on your website. What do you want them to do next? And, obviously a big part of that will be the design and development of the website itself. But you have to know, okay, well, what is the next step? Is it a case of, I just want someone to simply get in touch, or is it that it's a buy now situation or whatever it might be, or learn more? But I think a big problem is that people don't even really consider that before they look at websites.
Yeah. Take it away, Patrick.
I think that's as well, like a lot of businesses, you're looking at it from the point of view of, what you do exactly, exact services that you offer. Somebody coming onto your site may not know that. So you kind of have to like put that information out there, really almost like dumb it down for people, make it clear what you want them to do, what you offer, where to go. You see a lot on like, I feel, software websites where you go on, you'll look at a site and it'll have a lot of jargon and stuff. You won't actually know what these companies do. And the first thing they'll see is like book a call with us, but nobody's going to book a call if they don't actually know what you do. Like all those like SaaS, like software as a service companies, a lot of their websites seem to that, it's like we offer innovative solutions, but it's pretty much that repeated all over the site.
Yeah.
But you care what they actually solve or what they actually do. And I feel like a lot of people will just jump off that straight away.
Yeah, you're 100%. It's all this kind of like jargon or like insider kind of terminology. And it's all well and good you as a business knowing what that means internally. But chances are the person that you're selling to might not necessarily know what it is that you do exactly. So I think kind of confusing people and befuddling them with all these big words is, like, for me, an absolute no. Like, maybe there's a place there for your keyword strategy. But I think I read something online that said, at the very top of your website, start with a short, simple statement at the top of the homepage that clearly explains what you do and who you do it for. And if you can do that and it makes sense, I feel like that's a really good place to start.
Yeah. So yeah, it essentially boils down to when sites kind of talk too much about their business and not the customer instead is what it all is, where that kind of first mistake is made, and how you end up kind of with a site that doesn't really appeal to people, doesn't really kind of engage with them. And, then you can get into some of the technical sides where, okay, yeah, do you have some sort of value proposition above the fold? People are going to decide very quickly, are you letting them know who you are in a nice, succinct kind of manner? And, not just filled, as you said, with some of the, buzzwords. And, you do want to hit those kind of keywords as well from, a search performance kind of perspective. And yeah, next thing then you can kind of get into is, okay, well, how easy is it for them to kind of navigate around and find everything? The last thing you want to do is kind of make the visitor have to figure stuff out. And ideally you want to kind of make it easy, making life easy. If you make visitors kind of work too hard to try and find the information they're looking for, to get in touch or to engage, then yeah, it's just going to put them off. And we can probably all think of examples ourselves of when we've loaded up a website and we've felt the same thing a while after navigating and perhaps moved on and tried another.
Yeah. I think a good rule of thumb for people to follow is the 5-second test. Like, if someone lands on your website and they're there for 5 seconds, have they already figured out what you do, who you do it for, and what the next steps are if you're interested in engaging with them as a business? And if the answer to that is no, then you probably really need to look at what the purpose of your website is and what you want it to do. Obviously a huge thing with website conversion, Marcus, is the call to actions. Is there like a best practice for call to actions, or is there like a good kind of strategy for people to follow when it comes to developing a website?
So there'll be, of course, a lot of variance depending on the type of business and the nature of what the call to action is. If we take a business portfolio type website and it's just lead generation, perhaps they're looking for people to get in touch. And so in that case, first of all, thinking about, okay, well, if they're getting in touch, how are they doing so? Do you have some appointment booking software? If so, right, where's that book now button? Let's get that prominent in the header of the website to start things off, both in the mobile and desktop kind of menu. If we are looking to get instead just a general kind of contact, then That could be by email, it could be by phone. Perhaps you have a contact form. Perhaps you want to use all free. For smaller businesses, WhatsApp's quite desirable. A lot of businesses will use that too. They'll have a wee kind of chat pop-up window that's a little bit more direct on the site that'll kind of float there in the bottom right usually when you place it there. So that can be a bit more consistent. But yeah, it's just thinking about purpose. So if your website is showing kind of information for those business portfolio type websites, then okay, let's say you introduce them to some service type page and you've let them know where they are on the site. You've introduced the service. You've perhaps given a couple quick wee bullet points on what you do, maybe shown an example kind of case study, which would be quite good and engaging. That'll help build some trust with the user. Right, you've shown them that information. What's next? And some people will completely forget to put a call to action next. Some people will put in a button that brings them off to the contact or book page to make their next step. But the best choice to make there is put the form, put the information all there now. Don't give them another task that they have to carry out before they get that information. The sooner they can get that, the better. So yeah, just it's thinking about putting some chronology to how you kind of display stuff to them. So yeah, here's the service, quick little bit of info. Here's an example case study or some testimonials. What do we want them to do next? We want them to get in touch. Let them. Now, if you want to expand on that page then in terms of content side of things, because your page might be quite light up until that point, then do that below the call to action. And you can do another call to action later if you like. If you want to let people have a browse and scroll through the page, perfect. Let them, but show them the important stuff first and make it easy for them to get in touch. And if you quickly flip that over to like an e-commerce site, pretty much the same thing. Replace the content with your grid of products or other kind of information that you may have too. If they just want to browse your products, let them. If they want to read more information, then put that as a secondary kind of thought. It can still be there for Google, but first and foremost, make it easy for them to get to where they want to. Likewise, when they get to the product page, don't overwhelm them too much with a big product description. It should still be there, and you can have it further down with your FAQs and your reviews and everything else in between. But the first thing that they should be seeing when they load up the page is a picture of the product and a add to cart button right away.
Yeah, I suppose it's back to balance, isn't it? It's like you said, like in this case, it's balancing converting sales, as in that's probably your number one priority with SEO. So you obviously want to make sure that you're competing as much as it be possible for those kind of top 10 rankings, but that you're still prioritizing that you want the customer to buy from you or get in touch or whatever the kind of next logical step is. I mean, it's kind of back to what we always say, content is really, really vital. Whenever it comes to selling things, one thing that we would do a lot with clients is obviously actually creating the content for them on the website. But no matter how much time or effort we put into that, we always, correct me if I'm wrong here, we always want clients to come back and kind of add their own tone of voice to that content, don't we? I think people forget that you as a business, no one knows your business better than you do. So it's so important, isn't it, to allow them that opportunity to kind of bulk up that content by talking more about what they do best, talking about their USPs, bringing those case studies into it, right?
Definitely. I think as well with all the AI content out there now, it's really easy to have 100 websites that look and read the exact same. That like it's a really good basis to use AI. Like it speeds everything up and like it is good content, but I think it's still that you need to add like that personal touch, especially for smaller, more local businesses as well. Changing that, obviously you can do areas like blogs and case studies about your business or clients, customers that you've helped, but also to add in things like testimonials and stuff from your clients. That's really good for prospective customers to read on your website. It makes you seem a lot more genuine and a better reputation as a business. And then it also helps like differentiate you from competition that are probably also using AI. So it kind of gives you that little bit kind of a step up almost above them.
Yeah, exactly. It's like adding that human touch, and it's I suppose the difference between having a good quality website than using the yellow pages like 15, 20 years ago, where it was literally just a directory of businesses. It's nice to kind of actually differentiate yourself. Um, I suppose one thing that we would recommend a lot, as well as case studies and things in content, is FAQs. I mean, they're so important, not just from a sort of customer service and SEO perspective, but to also kind of maximize the likelihood that you're going to convert that customer. And I mean, to be totally honest, save yourself time, because when you think the amount of things that you could put in a list of FAQs that someone might get in touch, but it might be like, "Hi, do you do this?" Or, "Can I ask what this might look like?" Or, "How much this might cost?" Like, that's all time that you're going to spend answering client queries that you could probably save yourself, couldn't you, by just having FAQs on a lot of areas of the website?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's all about building that trust, because the website isn't just going to be a discovery tool for them, but it's also going to be a validation tool. In theory, the customer's probably already done some research if they are, looking for a given service or product or piece of information kind of in advance. AI tools already exist out there. They may have used it before they have come to you. So at that stage, they're kind of looking for a little bit of alignment between what you kind of say and then what that information or what other people might say kind of about you. And yeah, there'll be lots of different things that you can do to try and gain that trust, as far as, are you using too much stock imagery? Can you use something a little bit more personal? Technically, you can use some AI tools out there to generate something too, but, personal photos, when at least it's available, depending on your business type and the nature of it, is always going to be quite good. And you'll see it quite commonly. Websites are quite good at this in terms of including real, testimonials. As you said, case studies are so valuable too, as, both written content for SEO, as well as getting some trust along with users too, particularly with the likes of FAQs as well. You're going to want to make sure that you have the right schema going on from a technical perspective to make sure that's getting picked up. It's going to be quite valuable for how, Google and other search engines are looking for information. It's also going to be quite valuable for any AI tools out there too. They're going to be using that same structure.
Could you tell us a little bit more about schema from a layman's perspective, Marcus?
I'll do my best. So, from a technical perspective, if you search anything on Google, let's give a couple other examples of schema. Let's say you're looking for a certain type of product, then you'll notice whenever you look on Google, you can see that product that's going to feed in as its own little item with its image, title, price, and potentially some delivery information and a little tag about what website that's come from. Likewise, if you're looking up some news articles that are local to your area or more global, then you'll see those wee article boxes appear up in the top as well. And likewise, you'll see it for videos. You'll see imagery in its own kind of wee box as well. And if you look to some of the less common ones used, you'll see it for things like books or even events and things as well, if you're looking them up. So this is all structured data. That's essentially what schema is. And by essentially in the background, it's all kind of this, what we call kind of like JSON kind of code that types out kind of, okay, question is this, and insert what the question would be. If we're looking at an FAQ, answer is this, and it inserts what that is. The title of this overall FAQ section is this. Now, you might think, okay, well, can't Google just work that out themselves without us having to code this in the background? And the answer is probably yes, because they are going to do that anyway. They're already changing what people's meta descriptions and titles look like anyway, if they like. But going back to giving yourself a good baseline, if you have it there, Google doesn't have to do that work to figure it out. Instead, it's going to see it from the get-go. Now, if they want to do their own thing with that later and come up with their own question and answer based off of your website content, you just have to let them. But by having that structured data in the background, that'll be taken care of. To give a couple of examples, if you're using the Elementor page builder, it has a little button to turn on the FAQ schema, and it'll just convert all of that in the background. If you have Rank Math and you're working within, which is an SEO plugin for WordPress, and you're editing a post, then they have an FAQ block that does this automatically in the background. And if you want to get really technical with websites, you can generate it yourself and insert it on a page. It's a little bit more on the technical side. It's the kind of thing you want to automate. But yeah, it's just structured data. So we show that kind of in the background to Google, and that, yeah, they can help inform people's searches using that information then.
Well, I suppose to kind of summarize everything that we've talked about, there's multiple considerations when it comes to building a website that converts. But I guess top categories we're looking at, obviously, mobile first approach to design, content strategy, balancing SEO along with content that actually, makes sense. Like, it's back to that old cliche, people buy outcomes, they don't buy services. Make it clear, not just what you're selling, but what you can actually do for businesses. And also very much looking at the technical side of it, performance, all of that comes into it. And people are, and I suppose it's not even just a point of people being impatient. It's a case of, well, this is what people have gotten used to and they've come to expect when it comes to landing on a website. So why, if they land on your websites, did they have to wait any longer? But all really, really key considerations. And hopefully we've been able to give people some important tips and recommendations today. So thank you both very much. Another great episode. Please, everyone, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and let us know if there's any topics that you'd like to cover next time. See you next time.